We did it.
We made it. Steve, you were bragging about being on time last week, and then rushed in last minute and got it just in time this week.
Yeah. So what people watching or not watching later, an hour after the fact, don't know is that I basically joined the stream just now.
Yeah.
Normally we're very organized, but I had meetings that went all the way until the actual minute. And even though I told them that I had to leave, when people just keep talking, they go, "Oh, you got to go, right? Oh, well, let's keep talking." That happened.
Yeah, 6 p.m. on a Friday for you too, right?
Yeah, sure. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
So, welcome once again. My name is Steve Giguere.
And I'm Mike Foster. Thanks for joining. We have some new news. So if you're following on Twitch at the Kubernetes Security, we're actually taking our channel to our own Twitch page. So we'll direct you as we go along. But, the meetups, they need to be focused around security, CNCF, and we figured it would be better to have our own channel where we could, have a little bit more leeway with the content that we post. So stay tuned. We will be redirecting you. And actually, I'll put the link in as Steve tells us what to do on Twitch.
What to do on Twitch? What do we do on Twitch?
What do you
on
do?
YouTube, you give us a thumbs up and you give us a ring the bell, and you get reminded every time this video, which is live on Twitch, but will be uploaded after the fact to our YouTube channel, which will also be new. Should we put a banner out there as well that shows basically the name of the TV show is now the name of the Twitch channel and is also the name of our YouTube channel. So it's easy to find now. Simply just remember the 3 and the 8, get it in the right spot, and we're all good.
Yeah,
and I think there it is. There's a distinct possibility that if you get it spelled right, will be the only response that you get.
Yeah. Yes, that too. Anyways, so we'll remind people as we go through, and you'll see us reposting it if you follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn and stuff like that. And feel free to message us if there's any confusion. But let's get to.
I consider it an upgrade to go solo.
Yeah. Yeah, the meetups are pretty cool, though. In fact, we have another meetup next week. So if you're looking for more Kubernetes security talks, there's another meetup next week. We have Taylor Dolezal from HashiCorp coming and talking about Vault and secret management. And we also have Cyber DEI talking about how you can get involved and some of the different initiatives that they're pushing forward. So look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be back here Thursday, and it's 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and 6 p.m. What are you technically? UTC? UT?
I say GMT.
GMT, yeah. General. Yeah. Look forward to seeing you next week. And that's all we got all that stuff out of the way now. Now we have big news. You're going to throw in one more?
I'm going to throw one more in I didn't tell you about, which I was asked to say is that I'm speaking at that next week on the 10th. And it's a free thing, and there's lots of really smart techies talking about Kubernetes and security and access and automation. So I'm there next week. Go check it out. It's at cloudopssummit.com, but we'll throw a link in the thing if you want to go check it out. Mm-hmm. All right. That's it. That's my little plug. Shameless.
You actually reminded me, because by the way, since we're going to the new channel and we have to go and update that channel, we're going to do some other unique things that we couldn't do on this channel. So one of them being we want to create a document with all the links and all the different things that we pull so you can follow along and, work with the Twitch banners. So we'd love to hear from you if you have any recommendations. If you want to see job postings, the links and stuff, we're going to put them in that about banner on Twitch so you can get all the information that we have, and we're not just chucking it into the chat. All right.
Yeah.
That's all the housekeeping, right?
I think that is the end of the housekeeping. Good. We can get into it.
Sweet. Well, we're celebrating because 1, it's Friday, and 2, Steve, you have some big news.
Yes. I finally bit the bullet, and I'm following in your wise footsteps, Michael. Almost. I having been working in Kubernetes for 2 years and talking about security, I sort of realized I probably should take the CKA exam. But seeing as Michael scared the living bejesus out of me with his description of the CKS, I was like, anyway, I did it on Monday and I passed it, and I even got 89%, which then I actually was like, and then I was like, well, what did I get wrong? I'm both simultaneously happy about it and then thinking, I just made some stupid YAML spelling mistake at some point, didn't I? Because I actually thought I did okay at it. But yeah, I'm really happy about that. And if I'm going to write a blog article comparing the different courses, because I did the Linux Academy course and I did the Udemy course, just to kind of see like what are they talking about different and which one related better to the actual experience. So I'm going to write that into a blog. So I'll plug that maybe in the next episode when I get it done.
You didn't do Killer SH, did you?
I didn't do
Have you
that.
seen that one? No. Okay. Yeah, I'm interested because I've taken the CKA and the CKS, and I was just gonna shoot my shot at the CKD. I've heard it's the easiest one, but we'll find out. And yeah, it'd be interesting. I think I'll try to prep for the CKD using Killer SH, and I think maybe we'll come back and talk a little bit about it, about the different different courses. I think that'd be cool.
Okay, amazing.
Sweet.
That wasn't going to be part of the show. I noticed, Michael, that you slid something in here.
I did.
Wasn't that I don't know about, but I was like, very cool. All right, let me bring it up so you can talk about it. This is
It's somewhat of a political thing. I don't really know exactly how to take this, but Docker is open sourcing basically the DockerHub code, and really weird because they're calling it distribution. And so it's going in as distribution in GitHub. It's like GitHub/distribution/distribution. Anyways, so yeah, they've open sourced their DockerHub code. It's, I think, technically already in a sandbox for the CNCF, and it's probably going to move quickly because obviously it's a pretty polished product. I wanted to kind of, throw things to you, Steve, and just hot take. What do you think of this move by Docker? What do you think the background is, just with no knowledge whatsoever and me springing it on you? Do you think there's a play here, or do you think it's real CNCF focused in terms of, its intent, let's say?
Oh, do you want me to conspiracy theory about it?
Yeah, I need a good IT conspiracy theory right now.
Yeah, we don't need any more. We have there's lots of them out there. It's nuts. I actually just noticed that it's at github.com/distribution/distribution. That's super weird, right? Wow. What do you're trying to create a conversation. What's your theory? Let me throw it right back at you. Do you think this is like a Docker kind of treading water moment that
so like they were the original hub, right? And Kubernetes defaults to go pull the Docker hub for a lot of for all of its images. I think you're going to see that change. I think you're going to see the option when you create a cluster is going to become more prominent of where do you want to pull from, especially because you have, Google's, has their artifact repository. AWS has theirs, Azure has theirs, right? So like they all have their own repository now. Docker's not going to be the default. By throwing it out there now, it's like, we're not really competing anymore. Here's the code if you want to run it and people want to take it. It also somewhat, let's say, disrupts the cloud providers, right? Because part of going to a cloud provider is having all these tools integrated. But if I'm on-prem now, maybe, I can run these things on-prem. I don't necessarily need to use Quay.io or DockerHub or an external service. So I think it's useful. Obviously, I think they're doing it now because I think they're not going to be the default moving forward, and they kind of see that coming, and they're getting out ahead. At least they're doing it, though. I think open sourcing is the right move.
Oh, totally. I guess I just said, do you think they're treading water and they're trying to push it? This is their reaction. It actually seems like a good move.
Yeah.
But
it makes sense.
I need to digest it a little bit. Who wrote the article? Justin Cormack. Of course.
Yeah.
Nice one. Good start. Surprise. Way to put me on the spot. Thanks.
Yeah. Sorry. You can get me back sometime.
Oh, I will. You will never know when it happens. What is next? Next was one that I highlighted, so I'm going to throw that up there. And this was amazing, actually. It was the visual guide to troubleshooting Kubernetes deployments, right? And I thought, okay, visual. I'm to the cynical side. I generally expect most articles that cross my path, which is like 1,000, to suck. TLDR, click this PDF. So I did. And it's amazing. Like,
yeah,
it is like, it's not just a cool info graphic. It is functionally accurate.
Yeah.
And you can feed back to this guy. Like, he's wide open. If anybody doesn't agree with it, get it in here. But I cannot believe the amount of work that must have gone into getting this right. And I want a gigantic poster of it on my wall.
Yeah, it's your cheat sheet, debugging cheat sheet.
Yeah, very bad. Do not have this on your wall during the CKA. They check.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
No,
very cool.
And very well done, very neat. It's honestly, when I started with Kubernetes and I would talk with clients and things like that, debugging was one of the number one questions they had, right? It was, okay, that's great. We understand containers are. Now, how does it like work practically? Like, what is the flow? Who's responsible for what, right? So something like this is really useful, even just as part of a piece of documentation of like, have you looked at the chart? No? Okay, go look at the chart and come back to me. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, essentially. He's got a very long article with a lot of good examples in it. But the reality is, go look at the chart.
Yeah.
It's amazing. All right. Next up is, I don't know. What is next up?
Well, we did have just Kubernetes debugging coming up.
I think I'm actually going to leave that because I had that in there first. And then this one came in. It's just so much better.
It is.
So let's do then the highly appropriate cartoon, shall we?
Yeah. Yes. Very fitting.
Timely for my CKA experience. That this what was this release on the 25th?
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Yes,
please and thank you. Sorry, my eyesight is waning. Of course, they're gonna hit you with that. Of course,
the nag screen comes up.
There we go. Yes, very fitting.
So true.
And
there's that's the best. I'll tell them the last guy I knew about Kubernetes, but
all I really know. There's so much.
Very cool. So that's not a downloadable asset, but hilarious considering I saw this while I was studying for like doing practice exams for the CKA and going, yeah, that's about it.
They should have one even smaller where it's like all I think my manager knows about Kubernetes. It's just right. There's just so many different ways that you can use it. So
oh my God, the one down here. Funny. Well, because we both done work with customers in Kubernetes scenarios, we could put the all my customer knows about Kubernetes is the last one.
Yeah, I would actually like to see that kind of just adopted towards like service mesh or something like that.
There's an Istio one for this. There's got to be.
Yeah, or buzzwords.
DevSecOps.
Yeah.
All right, amazing. Where are we in our list? Are we at WTFs yet? Oh, that was a WTF. Uh-oh.
Was it?
We have better ones later. So
yeah.
I think I would actually like to skip unless you want to do the crash loop back off, but I would like to go to the CVE.
Yeah, sure. We can go to the CVEs. We have
a large show.
Yeah. Just keep chatting. We have
right. Wait, it's a WTF, so all right.
Done. I guess technically CVEs are WTFs, right?
Yeah.
Docker has a new CVE. So that's one of the big news. Vulnerability using the user namespace remap, which allows remap root to get privilege escalation to real root. It's basically remapping a user namespace. If you're doing it with a container, you can use that to get access to a real root user in the remap namespace. So this is technically patched if you're using the newer version of Docker. It's basically 9.03.15 or 20.10.3. That's where the vulnerability is. The newer version won't have that. There's so many CVEs that are like this where it's like, a previous version that's somewhat supported comes out and has a vulnerability. It's like, as long as you are kind of keeping up with your updates, you normally are pretty protected from a lot of security vulnerabilities. Just one of those use cases.
Nobody keeps Docker up to date. Even managed services are almost always behind.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't really blame them because like when I did the RKE example last week, right? If I use like a cloud init file, and I think I just run a script, but I didn't use a cloud init file because GCP cloud init through Terraform is annoying. And you are pulling a Docker specific version because RKE only supports specific versions. Now, if you're pulling the latest Docker version all the time, sometimes RKE doesn't support them. So once in a while, my Terraform code will break because Docker actually doesn't get installed properly. RKE is just like, hey, we're not supporting this. So it's little things like that where you hit that, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go with this specific Docker version. and then RKE updates, but then you're so afraid of changing the Docker version because you're afraid RKE is not going to support it. And so there's this like constant back and forth that keeps you from using the newer versions. I empathize with a lot of people in that situation, right? It's tough.
Oh, totally. Change is risk.
Yep.
Why would you change your Docker version if you didn't have to in any or change anything? That's that's kind of, unless of course there's a huge vulnerability and you've got to move on it very quickly. It's funny, like even if you go way back to like the Docker run C vulnerability, which was in 18 something from January 2019, still everywhere. Super easy to find on Shodan. So some people upgrade, some people don't.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do the next one? Seeing as you're on a roll with bad WTFs in the industry, we have the Linux malware one. Linux malware is relatively rare. Do you want to? Shall we bring that up? I didn't bring up the CVE screen because those are the most boring.
Oh yeah.
Like we had the link to it. That's what a CVE looks like if you've never looked at one. Ugh. Like how 1980.
Yes, security is not sexy.
No, it is not at all. I've now lost the Linux malware. There it is. Backdoor targeting supercomputers across the world, stealing the credentials. It seems really bad. And a Trojanized version of OpenSSH software. Did you put this up or did I put this up?
I found it. Yeah, I put it up there. So yeah, basically you're stealing SSH credentials, right? However it's happening, it's your malware that's basically probably forwarding the SSH keys. And that's the thing with, OpenSSH is it's pretty common. We know where those credentials are. If somebody has access, they can easily pull them, right? I mean, I haven't actually looked into how this malware specifically pulls those credentials and uses them, but
it looks, again, and we can't seem to avoid this subject, supply chain. It's a Trojanized version of OpenSSH. So somehow people started using a version of OpenSSH as a dependency that is by default stealing credentials.
Yes, there it is. Yeah.
Which is crazy because particularly in terms of things like OpenSSH, OpenSSL, any of those security focused open source libraries, good to have good to use the to make sure you know the version that you've got. Plenty of tools out there to help with that.
And you think about how these things get installed too, right? Like I was just giving the example of Terraform and Cloud.init. That's exactly how it'd be done. If somebody's playing around Terraform, that might be their first time, maybe they don't know what's going on. And they're trying to find a package because they're like, I need SSH. Okay, we're going to go with this package from this source, right? Maybe not verifying the source that they're pulling from, maybe not verifying that it's the correct OpenSSH version, right? And then they add it to their Cloud.init file. And then maybe they don't check on it. Maybe somebody on the host side intercepts it and says, hey, here's the package and we're going to install this one instead, right? There's a bunch of different ways that can happen. And unfortunately, it is one of the risks with installing software anywhere, right? Making sure that you're verified. And we talked about this with malware with the kids and the laptops last week.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. It's nuts. But it's I'm both amazed but not surprised when these things come out regularly, where they're like quite clearly there's a lot of people out there who aren't checking just versioning of open source libraries, probably not building them themselves from the actual source, but downloading the library from somewhere as a dependency, importing it in, and not actually verifying it's the one that they thought. It's easy to do, but and if I guess in the security realm that we occupy, we hear it so often that we're like, how do you not do this?
And one of the big things is it takes a little bit extra just to secure it, but it's such a small step. Like if you're using something like a Cloud.init or a Terraform, it is declarative. Put a comment, put like the URL where you're pulling from, describe why you're pulling from this URL, right? Because maybe it's not then, but maybe it might be in the future. Somebody comes in and is just like, why are we pulling from this URL? They can go and look, and it just saves time. You'd be surprised at how much just gets passed through because just humans are lazy, right? So I want to pull from a source and I want it to work. How do I verify where that is? Well, the next person, maybe a security person's coming through and looking at your code and they're like, oh, why are they pulling it from there? I can see the URL. Okay, I know that this is the correct version and I can just go easily change it and it'll have the same effect. And we just have a conversation later versus I don't even know where you pulled it from. and honestly, a lot of security people do this, where it's just like that. We can't use that because, okay, well, there's no discussion, there's no collaboration, right? Anyways, my 2 cents on why,
On
use that
reality.
declarative format. Yeah. And just
Yeah.
take a little bit extra time to document where you're pulling from.
Awesome. Wise words. He's got a CKS, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the next one because it's really controversial. Shall we?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to bring this up because I can't believe we didn't talk about it sooner.
I didn't want to talk about it last week. I thought I'd wait a little bit.
Yeah, just let it sink in, see if anything changed. I like the picture on the blog, actually. That's great. So I'm going to leave the text up there. I really like the gigantic highlight on the AWS makes more money on Elasticsearch than Elastic does. What's
Really
amazing is a lot of really, it's getting, yeah. So Elastic are making a licensing change to Elasticsearch from Apache 2 to server-side public license. That is because of AWS, and AWS's response was to fork the previous version that still has Apache 2 and kind of run with it. That is the kind of, that is any other thing I'm missing in that. That seems...
I mean, just in terms of the open source community, the server-side license, one of the big caveats is that you cannot host the open source product and make money off it. You can host it,
right?
You just can't license it out. It was really targeting AWS, and
yeah,
there's discussion as to whether the server-side license is truly open source or not. That's there, but realistically, I mean, it's spelled out in the title as to why Elastic did this. AWS is making more money. Where my 2 cents as to where Elastic screwed up is, why was AWS allowed to use that trademark in the first place? Like, why are they allowed to call it Elastic Service? Like, that was your real screw up, right? Open source it, but keep the name, right? And I think it actually ties back to Docker open sourcing and calling it distribution. They didn't call it DockerHub open source. They changed the name to distribution.
No.
Right?
Yeah, because then you're open sourcing your own name.
Yeah. So word to the wise,
don't open source your brand.
Don't open source your brand. Yeah.
Somebody might not just make money off of your software, but your brand as well. So
have they changed this now? Did they revert the license back because they received a lot of backlash? Is anybody in the chat?
Anybody in the chat know if there's progress on this since that we don't know about? Well, if there is, we'll issue a retraction next week.
Yeah. Well, it is under the stuff to follow. So, but yeah, there's a lot of options there. It's just, I'm not really sure exactly what they're going to do. And AWS kind of has them a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pivot from it.
Michael, so check out our chat. Remember we were talking about earlier that we're not big enough. No one ever spams our chat, so we don't really have to worry about it.
Yeah,
I think we just got our first chat spam.
Oh no,
yeah, we are.
We just got hit.
We're just getting bots throwing garbage. Don't click those links. They're bots. They're evil. Yeah, and then we learn enough about Twitch. So how do we make that?
Well, yeah, I got to go block URLs now. But realistically, I wanted Sam and DSO and things like that to be able to post links to tell us that we're wrong. I guess we can't do that now. We'll just have to trust when Sam tells us that we're wrong.
Yeah, essentially. Excellent. Well, that's a new experience as Twitter people. Yeah, you can't just leave it. I'm going to throw the other WTF up that I thought was fun, and that is. This is just a very quick story that came in on the Daily Swig. And it was an incident where Google does a lot of things. Chrome does a lot of things right? The security measures that they build into Chrome, the fact that bad stuff doesn't happen, there's a lot of stuff happening under the covers to make sure that that is in fact the case with Chrome. So Chrome, very positive, don't want to knock Chrome too hard. Except that they blocked Nmap, which is, yes, could be used for malicious purposes, but is an absolute essential tool for the good guys as well. So there was this moment where Chrome Safe Browsing kicked in and said, deceptive site ahead. And you couldn't get access to Nmap. So what happened is they have to then you have to go through all the rigmarole to, it's kind of like if you're in an organization, like you work for a big organization. When I used to work at Synopsys, they blocked everything. They blocked Nmap. They blocked anything that was that if you were, say, the person who worked at the front desk and just doesn't know security, doesn't know anything, they have to account for those people. So anything that could be used by an attacker from an insider threat was blocked, but it really messed up if you're trying to do your job. So in fact, I thought it was very funny that as a WTF, they blocked Nmap. But the good news is that they unblocked it almost like relatively immediately.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Wrongful blocking of cybersecurity resources. Anything on that, or should we move on? The power that they have, right? Like, if you make the browser, you control essentially what is like an operating system running in your operating system, and what it can and cannot do, when you can and cannot see. It's a lot of power. So I guess we can be a little bit critical when they get things wrong, but let's give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt because they fixed it fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seemed like it was just a mistake.
Yeah, still fun to give them a bit of a ribbing.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we're done the WTF section, sort of.
Yeah,
right?
Sort of.
We love to talk about the big spenders of the world. Shall we? I'm going to throw it over to you to comment on yet another security acquisition.
Ooh. I got to comment on this. Boston-based security operations company Rapid7 bought Alcide for $50 million.
That's bonkers. Like,
Security,
it's not that much.
No, but in terms of the life cycle of Alcide,
yeah,
they're relatively new, right?
Yeah, that falls back into the category in the lost episode where we were talking about how Portworx and Portshift and Port Anything went from existence to acquisition in a ridiculous amount of time. It seems like if you would like to make some millions of dollars at this point in time in your life, and you've got a decent security background and coding background, and maybe an original idea, maybe not an original idea at all, just an interesting spin on an old idea.
And they actually bought two cloud security companies as well. So they bought Divi Cloud last April. So I think there's going to be a combination, because I think really, you know, especially with the movement to containers, one of the big things with security is like, do you just secure Kubernetes? How do you secure the other workloads, right? So there's a general conversation of there is no single pane of glass that does everything thoroughly right now, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is the unicorn in the security space. Interested to see where that moves. But yeah, so they have two purchases. And actually, I didn't even realize this. They gave us a shout out too. So they said, you know, VMware nabbing Octarine, Cisco getting Portshift, Red Hat getting StackRox.
Yeah, there it is.
There's big moves in the security space right now.
I like this thing down here where they highlighted Israel's maturing cybersecurity startup ecosystem. Israel kind of is the cybersecurity startup ecosystem. Mm-hmm. It's not kind of maturing. Like, all the really pretty crazy stuff is coming out of Israel generally. But yeah, somebody just asked what is Alcide or Alcide? Do you know whether it's Alcide or Alcide?
I don't know.
I'll go with Alcide. Yeah. So they were a Kubernetes and containerized security solution, essentially, that was focused more on microsegmentation, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas Divi Cloud was like a CSPM, I believe.
Yeah, if I was going to comment on Alcide just at a high level, it is a very, very baby StackRox in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. They're not quite there yet, because like basically they're looking at categories. So they do scanning, they do some slight configuration things, but nowhere near like network or policy or anything like that StackRox does. But it's that you can tell that that's where they want to go to, right?
Yeah, well, the acquisition
really efficient.
The acquisition price is of $50 million is an indicator of how in its infancy it was on its way to something that, and obviously Rapid7 thinks it can do something good with it. Mm-hmm. And I think the combination of Kubernetes security tools mixed together with cloud security tools is kind of like a Prisma, or like there's lots of companies who are looking to combine those technologies. So it'll be really interesting to see what Rapid7 does with it, like in a year and a half.
Yeah, and it's always the tough thing of how much do you respond to, right? Because let's say you're, a pure Kubernetes security platform. Well, then that's what you're going to do. That's what you're paying for. It's probably going to be the best in show, because the resources aren't spread across different platforms, right? So, you have two projects. It's going to be interesting to see how they combine them and also how they keep them separate, because not all buyers want security for everything too, right? It's the part that I don't envy about product managers when they're making decisions about what to support and what not to support and how to support it, right?
Yeah.
You want security, but you also want portability. You can't necessarily be throwing your hat in the ring on every, hot and up and coming open source application. You kind of need to wait for things to mature, right?
It's a nightmare. I would never be a product manager. Like, that would be, to me, that's the worst job. Well, I suppose if I was my own startup, I'd have to be, but I wouldn't volunteer into it. It just seems like a very unforgiving and difficult job. So hats off to the product managers of the world.
Yes. You have our thanks.
All right. So we have one thing left. How did you get any prep done for this?
No.
Or am I just talking about it?
Yeah. I'll do a full one. So we've been pushing this one off. Let's say I don't get out enough, and I had a little bit too much of a social last night, so I didn't go into my Sealed Secrets demo, but I will demo Sealed Secrets for you next week? Yeah, we'll do one next week.
Well, it depends if we want to. If in the same bit it comes, am I still sharing? Okay, good. I was just going to big it up a little bit, because we'll put the link in if you want, because we have been pushing it around because it's cool and we want to talk about it. We thought we could demo it because it's super easy, but because it's super easy, it's actually not too bad just to kind of show and describe how Sealed Secrets actually work in terms of why they exist, for one, and then the basics of what it looks like. So do you want to give the why, and I'm going to roll down to where there's a bit of a sort of visual.
Why Sealed Secrets? Yeah, sure. Secrets in Kubernetes, one of the issues is everything gets stored in etcd, right? So do we encrypt etcd? Like, what happens? How do these secrets get injected into the container at runtime? Do they touch the disk, for example? Are they injected directly into memory? So there's that issue. Now, secrets have since basically normally been base 64 encrypted in etcd, which is not really encryption, it's encoding, and then injected into tempfs, right, at runtime. So it doesn't technically sit on the host, it sits in memory. There's still an issue with that, meaning if somebody has access to etcd, they'll have access to the secrets. So what we want to do is we basically have a process that encrypts it into etcd and then decrypts it at runtime in memory when you need it in the container. That summarize it?
Yeah,
we got it.
That's good. Yeah, my simplification is that you should have your data encrypted and decrypted at rest, and then in motion it should always be encrypted. But previously, in the example they're using there with Helm, it isn't. So this is a great solution to that. And it's using a tool called kubectl, which is the thing I thought we could do, but it's easy enough to actually. I just think I put the link in. It's a very cut and paste example on a Mac OS brew install kubectl. I actually installed it. I just didn't get there. But the idea of creating the sealed secret here, such that it gets sent in and decrypted using kubectl on the server side. So it's pretty straightforward. I don't know that there's a lot of complexity around it. Is there any nuance that you noticed in there that you thought was worth calling out?
I don't think so. I mean, basically, we're just doing our own separate encrypting, right? We're not trusting Kubernetes to do it, and we're saying, we're going to do it on our own. It's the same thing. Like, if you didn't want to do a sealed secret, use something like Vault, because realistically, if we're not following those anti-patterns, right, we're injecting everything we need into the container at runtime, right? So we want to make sure that everything is safe, separate, however we want to set it up, and then we're just passing our values in. And making sure that nobody can intercept them. So I think it's just a little bit of a layer for people who don't want to get all the way into Vault or external key value stores. It's like, here's like a nice, easy way to set it up, give you a little extra protection.
Yeah, it's a very simple tool for solving a very simple problem at a low scale, scale, non-enterprise scale, let's say,
with a lower learning curve, like Sam put, like our learning curve with Twitch and getting spammed. It's if you use Kubernetes, it's pretty easy to understand exactly what's going on and how to implement the sealed secret in.
Cool. All right. So that was our tool of the day, or our tool time piece. Was there anything that we wanted to go through? We are doing pretty well on time. So I think that's about it. Any last minute thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, just go and follow our other Twitch channel by our actual name. Do we put that link? Yeah, we put it in at the beginning, but I'll put it in again just for everybody so they can check it out. We're going to be, I chucked it in there. We're going to be moving everything over there. So basically the Kubernetes security channel is for the meetups. So you'll see the meetups there, and then we're going to have our own channel. So they're going to be separate, and we'll have a little bit of flexibility on what we post. So again, one of the things I wanted to bring too is all these links. I want to put them into a Excel sheet, and then you'll find it in the About section and on YouTube. So if you guys want to check it out later, I'll have it there for you. And that's all the housekeeping I got, Steve.
I got one other one, which I'm going to throw up there, and that is the new. Has anybody ever contacted us on email?
Yes.
That you know?
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
It's worked. I don't mean you have contacted us.
Yeah, people have reached out. Yeah, they've told me to stop.
Is that our new email?
That is the.
Oh,
new,
yeah.
This is the new email.
Right. So if you need to contact us and talk to us and make suggestions for the show, maybe you're thinking, I've got a great demo of Sealed Secrets, guys. You should have brought me in. Tell us.
We'd be happy to bring you in.
Yeah, we don't mind special guests. That would be pretty cool. It's not something we've done. We've only got like 5 shows. So we're open to anything. Let's get crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, shall we sign off?
That sounds good. Yes. Come to the meetup next week. See you guys.
Thursday. My name's Steve Jaguar. That's Michael Foster. This has been